The clock is ticking towards the end of the 2-week ceasefire, and the negotiations towards the final agreement to end the war is going down to the wire because both the US and Iran are holding on to mutually exclusive and maximalist positions with little to no meeting ground between them. Iran's preconditions are broadly about ending the war against itself and its allies, ending of all the sanctions imposed upon it, the unfreezing of all of its assets, and the acceptance of its right to enrichment under the NPT. None of the Iranian preconditions are acceptable to the US side though. The US preconditions are mostly aimed towards Iran's complete denuclearization. It wants Iran to close most of its nuclear facilities and all its enrichment activities regardless whether it is allowed or not under the NPT, and hand over the 450 kilos of highly enriched uranium and the remaining to be placed under IAEA safeguards. And on the military front, the US wants Iran to end support to its regional allies and accept limitations on its conventional missile and drone programs. Unsurprisingly, none of the US preconditions are acceptable to Iran. It insists on its right to enrichment as a signatory of the NPT, has refused to hand over the 450 kilos of highly enriched uranium, has said that its own conventional military capabilities are not up for negotiations, and has flatly refused to end its backing of its regional allies. This is effectively a deadlock, and both sides are digging in their heels. An added complication since the beginning of this war was the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran. The US wants it returned to the pre-war status as an open international waterway. The Iranian side refuses and says that the Strait of Hormuz will from now onwards be under their control. One of the conditions of the ceasefire was Iran opening the strait for the duration of the ceasefire, but it refused to open the strait, insisting that Lebanon be included in the ceasefire. The US side in return announced its own blockade against Iran in the Gulf of Oman. But in the last 24 hours, there was movement on this issue, with the US brokering a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon. The Iranian side then announced the opening of the strait to commercial shipping. But then, after the US refused to end its own blockade of Iranian ports, the Iranian side announced the closure of the strait once again. The end of the 2-week ceasefire is just days away, and an agreement to end the war remains elusive. The US and Iran, in the last few hours, have once again defaulted back to their maximalist positions, and the US side continues to build up its forces in the region. The Iranian side is insisting on a final agreement and is refusing to extend the ceasefire. So it is likely that barring a last-minute push towards a final agreement or an extension to the ceasefire, the war could restart again.